The Conservative Party is planning to amend the Borders Bill to deport foreign criminals. Hi, I'm Miriam Cates and this is GBN Originals. Now, the Tories have unveiled a bold new policy that would see all foreign nationals with criminal convictions deported from the UK, regardless of the severity of the offence. This move is part of a broader strategy by the Conservatives to tighten our immigration laws and prioritise the safety and security of British citizens. Now, let's be clear, this isn't about demonising immigrants. It's about upholding the rule of law and ensuring that those who come to our country respect our values and our way of life. For too long, we've seen foreign criminals exploiting loopholes in our system, remaining in the UK despite committing serious offences. The proposed amendments would close these loopholes and send a clear message. If you come to Britain and break our laws, you will face the consequences. This isn't just about punishment, it's about deterrence and protecting our communities. Now, critics argue that this policy is too harsh, that it could potentially affect those who've committed minor offences. But I ask you this, shouldn't we prioritise the rights and safety of law-abiding British citizens over those who've shown disregard for our laws? And moreover, this policy aligns with the wishes of the British people. Time and again, voters have expressed their concerns about immigration and crime. The Conservative Party, finally, is listening and trying to take action. Now, of course, we must ensure that the implementation of any policies like this are fair and just. But make no mistake, these are necessary steps towards regaining control of our borders and restoring faith in our immigration system. So as we move forward, it's crucial that we have an open and honest debate about these issues. We can't just shy away from difficult conversations because they're uncomfortable. Earlier on Good Afternoon Britain, we spoke to Guy Dampier from the Prosperity Institute. So, should the UK deport all foreign criminals? Well, to debate this, we're joined by senior researcher at the Prosperity Institute, Guy Dampier, and founder of the Sanctuary Foundation, Krish Kandiah. Thank you both for joining us. Guy, let's start with you. Now, I understand these amendments have been laid and they will work by withdrawing indefinite leave to remain from somebody if they are convicted of a criminal offence. Firstly, do you support this? And secondly, do you think it's workable?
I think there's no reason why somebody who has come to this country and committed a crime should have access to indefinite leave to remain. And I think it's an eminently workable thing to do. There are plenty of countries around the world that have harsh, effective measures to make sure that immigrants that come here are beneficial for the country as a whole. And obviously, committing criminal acts is not beneficial. So I think it is workable if they want to make it work.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Krish, surely you can't possibly support that we, we're going to keep our borders nice and open, even if someone's committed a crime, then they don't immediately get deported if they are waiting to have an asylum claim heard or something like that. You can't support, surely, that we shouldn't be doing that?
I think this is an overreaction. We already have laws in place. If someone has a criminal conviction with a custodial sentence of over a year, then they can be and will be deported. That seems fair. That's a serious crime. But this legislation would say any crime for any foreign national.
Well, what's wrong?
My son is engaged to be married to a young woman from America. Let's say that they haven't got married yet. She hasn't got her citizenship in the United Kingdom.
Then she commits a crime.
She breaks the law by speeding. Maybe she drops a bit of litter. Surely to be deported for
They're
this.
criminal offences.
They're not.
They are criminal offences.
No, they're not. They're civil offences. Those are civil offences. So the parking fines and things like that, they're civil offences. They're not criminal offences. We're talking about somebody who's committed a criminal offence.
Well, what about praying in your own home near an abortion clinic? Does that count as a criminal offence? You could be deported for that. Would that be an appropriate response? I think these are an overreaction.
Depends
I think
how
we're not
you do
making
it,
any
doesn't it,
distinction
really?
between legal migration, illegal migration, any foreign national from any country. These seems to be an overreaction to me.
Now, Guy, obviously we are considering, when we're talking about this, perhaps recently arrived illegal immigrants, but actually we've got to consider the fact that there will be people who have been in this country for a long time, have indefinite leave to remain, who are perhaps in very good jobs, productive to our economy. Were they to be convicted of a criminal offence, that would mean that they would, under this proposal by the Conservatives, be deported, possibly their families as well. Do you think that is a proportionate response?
I think the number of people who are in this country who've got indefinite leave to remain, who are in good paying jobs, who then commit a criminal act is going to be unbelievably tiny. So I think it's a perfectly proportionate act when we do consider the scale of what we're dealing with. The Centre for Migration Control recently showed that in the last 3 years, there have been 104,000 convictions for foreign nationals, of which 38,000 were either violent or sexual or involved drugs. So we have a major problem and we need to tackle it. And very clearly, it's not being tackled at the moment. The courts are absolutely clogged up with this stuff and we're proving incapable of getting rid of them. So I think anything that encourages us to do that is a good thing.
We also spoke to Stephen Webb from Policy Exchange. Explain for our viewers exactly what these amendments would do and how they would work.
Yes, as you say, there are quite a few of them and they work quite well together. There's obviously the amendment on offences themselves and taking away the threshold. I think these days you have to work relatively hard to get a 12-month sentence, particularly if you're a first offender. So actually, it's a relatively high threshold at the moment. I think taking that away is quite sensible. Obviously, actually, to be able to remove someone, first you need to be able to be allowed to in law. Secondly, you need to have cooperation from the country to take them back. And that's something there's a separate amendment on that basically says that there must be visa sanctions. Visas must be cut off for countries that don't cooperate with returns, and that's a considerable sharpening of the law at the moment. And then thirdly, there's the human rights side, and that is going to be a difficult area. So what this amendment looks to do is actually simply disapply the Human Rights Act from this whole area of law. That still obviously leaves us a member of the ECHR. It still enables appeals to Strasbourg and so on. So it would very much only be an interim measure, but it recognises that the status quo, as we said in our report, why is it so hard getting immigration numbers down? The status quo at the moment is making it really impossible to remove people, particularly with claims under sort of Article 3, which is all about claims of torture, and Article 8, which is about privacy and family life, where I think the immigration tribunal judges and Strasbourg have pushed the definitions into areas that the general public would just be astonished by.
Foul-tasting chicken nuggets now counts as torture, as we've found out.
But couldn't they then appeal to the ECHR if it's been disapplied? Could they then appeal to a European court if we've disapplied it? Then they could then say, yeah, but it's against my human rights for them to disapply that to me. So could they not do that?
They probably would, which is why exactly. I think the long-term, as we were discussing, the long-term plan to reform or leave the ECHR is an important part of it all as well. That in our paper we suggest a coalition of countries that are equally concerned about this. Plenty of European countries have got the same concerns that we do. Would be one way of trying to do it, and if reform isn't possible, then the option of leaving absolutely has to be considered.
But how likely is that to be something that we could realistically do? Because first of all, Keir Starmer, he's a human rights lawyer, so he's probably going to be all for it. I doubt any of his front bench will be going against him. So I think this is never going to happen. It's never going to happen, is it?
There's a series of amendments that the opposition put down, some of which, in principle, government doesn't accept opposition amendments anyway, but they might come back with some of their own. There are some, I think, of the Human Rights Act that the government certainly aren't ready for, even though they're getting increasingly anxious about what they're seeing. There are some, I mean, for example, the restrictions on indefinite leave to remain, increasing the eligibility period, requiring you to have earned a significant amount of money and not be on public on welfare. Those are things where, who knows, it's possible the government might move in that direction too, because the sheer wave of numbers that are coming because of the enormous numbers that were granted visas a few years ago, I think the government will recognise that granting ILR to hundreds of thousands of people a year is going to be very, very unpopular.
Now, in these amendments, the way that the Conservatives seem to have written them in order to make sure that anybody who committed a crime could be immediately deported, it's all about removing indefinite leave to remain from anybody who commits a crime. But what about people who have come over, let's say, on a small boat, have not been, or have come on a visa, but have not yet been given indefinite leave to remain, a process that normally takes around 5 years? Is there currently provision to deport people in that situation, so pre-ILR status, to deport people immediately if they commit crimes?
Well, this will, yes, this
that will cover them as well.
Okay. No, absolutely.
So whether you've just arrived or whether you've been here 5 years, 10 years and are under definite, okay, that's interesting. Now, these are amendments by the Conservative Party, a party in opposition. It's highly unlikely that the Labour Party will accept these amendments or adopt these policies. For now, at least, these policies don't seem to be able to get over the line. Nevertheless, it's a very interesting development that the Conservative Party, which rejected such ideas in power, the idea of disregarding the Human Rights Act, the idea of deporting people on a first offence, is now understood this is the right thing and it is what the British people want. So what do you think? Is this policy the right move for Britain, or does it go too far? We want to hear your thoughts, so join the conversation on our social media channels by leaving a comment below. This is Miriam Cates. Don't forget to subscribe to the GB News YouTube channel for more.